it's never too late to start. You can be 70 and start doing minor lifting or just, doing step-ups, things like that, working on your functional movement. It's never too late. But I do think one of the biggest problems we're facing as a society is with the youth, like with children. Child obesity is a very, very big problem. And that means that they're going to be battling their health and chronic disease for their entire life.
What's the big deal about, it's just a couple pieces of bread and a piece of sausage, it's a McMuffin, and I'm like, that is not just those things.
Yeah.
Like maybe when in the 60s, when you were a kid, it was those things. I just saw a video of a woman who was a 20-year-old hamburger from McDonald's, and it looks like almost the exact same.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, what? There's just a ton of stuff in there. Is there anything else that's kind of concerning you as you look at kind of the typical American state of our health? Make America great again is quite the thing now. Like, what's your take on where we're at? Is it correctable?
Welcome to the Fear No Food podcast, health and nutrition stuff for us normal people.
All right, well, welcome back to the Fear No Food podcast. I have soon-to-be Dr. Emily DeSmidt here with us. Emily was a health coach with us here at Vitalize for a number of years, and I like to think that we played a small part in launching you
huge role
into the naturopathic medical world.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how that, your journey into deciding, hey, I want to go fully into holistic health and become a doctor.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard about naturopathic medicine. Growing up, I just pursued biomedical sciences in college and then decided, okay, I want to go to medical school. I want to do this. And all I knew was the MD or DO route. That was just kind of my options. And so pursued that, got some experience in an emergency department and at Barrow's Neurological Institute, just kind of doing that stuff. And I thought it was great, but I knew that I wanted to take a different approach than what I was seeing of just treating the symptoms of a patient comes in with this. And so you give them this or you do this. And I knew that I wanted to approach it with lifestyle, diet, exercise, other things like that. But I kind of took it on myself of I'm going to have to train myself that way because I know I won't receive that education. But then through the process of taking the MCAT, applying, didn't get in my first cycle, took some time off, and that's where I ended up at Vitalize. And that's where I kind of got introduced to this whole world of naturopathic, holistic health. And as a coach here is where I really saw that food can heal people. I knew that concept and kind of experienced it in my own life, but I saw it meeting with clients every day, all day, every day, and them coming back, oh, this is better, look at this, I can walk again, or I can do this, and my skin's cleared up, or XYZ, just from changing their diet. And that's where I learned about the School of Naturopathic Medicine here in Tempe, and I was like, this aligns with exactly what I believe myself. There's a whole world out here that will teach me how to do this,
Which is funny because my understanding of the traditional or Western medical route is that lifestyle and diet actually is part of the protocol. It's just not ever talked about or stressed as much as writing the script or treating a symptom. Is that what you found to be true as well?
Yeah, they do get some one, quarter or one unit of diet, exercise, nutrition counseling. But it is more in if they're deficient in this, how do they, recover from that? Or if they are B12 deficient, what do they do for that? Not as in wellness or optimizing, and not optimizing in that buzzword that you hear, but how can we go past just the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel that's kind of where the Western medical allopathic education is, or they just, oh, you're overweight, or you have this, so you need to lose weight. But then they don't teach them different ways to do that. And there are different ways to lose weight or to do other things. And so it's just kind of writing the script for exercise, but not all the different types that you can go into, what is best for you. And I think that's where naturopathic medicine shines, is we learn all these different types of modalities that we can individualize the treatment of. This is what you're struggling with. These are what your hormone panel says. So this is what we need to do for that, which is going to be different than the next patient who might be struggling with the same problem, but their underlying metabolic health is different. Hormones are different. Lifestyle's different, all that stuff. So.
Yeah. I love that. What is the difference between an allopathic approach or a Western medical approach and a naturopathic approach? Can you kind of give us the basic 101 of what is naturopathic medicine?
Yeah. a loaded question. But the biggest difference is naturopathic medicine. We are taught to our principles, everyone knows do no harm. That's the same for allopathic and naturopathic. We have that same oath that we take, do no harm. But then we go a step further. You actually
do no harm.
We do no harm, yes. We promise to do no harm.
I'm being facetious.
And then the other principles are doctor as teacher. So we want to bring our patient along with us on this journey. We're not just here to tell you what to do, but to educate you so that eventually you don't need us anymore, right? We want to help you and educate you so you can then explain it to other people why you're doing what you're doing. Another principle is treat the whole person. So if you have a headache, it might not just be a headache problem. It could be a systemic problem, a vascular problem, a cardiac problem. So we are looking at the whole body and how each system plays with each other when we're treating somebody, not just looking at the one area. Oh, you have heart disease. Okay, but we're going to look at your endocrine system. We're going to look at everything that could affect that. Exactly.
And in an allopathic approach, it's more of like siloed, like, hey, there's a symptom around this. Let's just look at this symptom and not take into account the full picture.
Yeah, I think you can get some doctors who do understand that concept. I think everyone understands it, but the way that they're trained is you have this disease, so it's kind of like a formula. You come in with these symptoms equal this disease means you get this treatment, end of story. When naturopathic medicine is, we learn that standard of care, that same standard of care, but we put it in the picture of who we're seeing, and not just that formula that we're inputting and out and getting an output.
Wonderful. Well, so can you still prescribe medications then as well?
Yeah, in Arizona, we are a fully licensure state, so we have the widest scope of practice here. Not every state we are not licensed in every state. We call them pre-licensure because we're fighting legislation to get naturopathic doctors licensed in every state. But here in Arizona, we can prescribe and do prescribe medications when necessary. Because you kind of alluded to it, there is an overlap with allopathic medicine, naturopathic medicine. It's not an either or. We like to look at each other as a team. There's a place for naturopathic medicine. There's a place for allopathic medicine. Both are really good. So how can we work together to heal this patient? Yeah.
That's awesome. What if you had, and maybe there isn't like a formula, it's not as clean cut as this, but like what would you say is like, if you look at like lifestyle diet or lifestyle nutrition, supplementation, like in a wellness perspective, like is it 80% diet? Is it 80% working out? Or am I looking at this too one-dimensional?
As far as like wellness, say like in the absence of a like disease that you have, right? Like hypothyroidism, XYZ, just like wellness in general for your, general person. It was, I would say 60-70% diet, and then the 30-40% exercise, and hydration being a part of the diet and things like that.
Yeah, like lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle. Because there's nothing that can replace exercise. Like no pill that can replace exercise. What that does for your body is incredible. So
you can't just take a shot and replace that? Oh.
No, you can't. Yeah, you actually have to do the work of exercise. And the way that produces longevity, again, this is a buzzword, but the way that just improves quality of life and like the way that you function in your everyday life, getting out of bed, going up the stairs, getting in and out of a car, lifting up your child, like nothing else besides practicing those movements can aid in that. And that is, what wellness is being able to function and do your daily routine. So that's a huge portion. But then diet is that other thing that we can't run away from. Our body assimilates everything we eat into every aspect of our body. There's no part of your body that's not affected by what we eat. So,
you said the anti-aging or the like longevity is a buzzword. I
shouldn't have said that.
Let's go into there. Like what is that? We see that a lot. I feel like it's a very marketing-y word that's used all the time. I've probably used it in a marketing type of way. What does that mean to you? Longevity or anti-aging?
Longevity and anti-aging to me just means quality of life. Like, yes, there are things that can make us live longer, but what is the quality of that? And so, so I would say like things that we can do, again, back to the functionality of being able to pick up our grandkids when you get to that age and getting out of bed and not falling. The chances of mortality after you have a fall and break your hip is significant after the age of like 60, 65. Like, yeah, I'm not going to give a number, but it's very high. And so just being able to not fall increases your longevity. And so that is just balance and leg strength. And you don't have to be, squatting 1,000,000 pounds, but just keeping up that strength is really essential for quality of life and that longevity. Yeah,
which as an aside is one of the concerning things that I've seen with some of the semaglutide, we'll call it abuse, because I think there might be a use case. Feel free to argue me on that.
No.
But it's the amount of muscle wasting that can take place. It's like, how do you navigate stairs when you're 75 then if you've just deteriorated all of your foundation, and then you're at higher risk of falling and things like that.
Totally.
I had an interesting conversation over Christmas with actually my first boss out of college, or actually after I left the world of rugby. And he's down 85 pounds, chose not to do it in a medicated way. He got onto Dr. Mark Hyman, all anti-inflammatory eating, and he's just completely shifted his mindset. And he said one of the big paradigm shifts that he had was he was reading some Dr. Mark Hyman book, I forget which one, but basically this idea that like, when you're 65, you don't just have to battle chronic illnesses until you die, which is what he's like, most of my generation kind of figured that. Like you turn 65, and then just the back, quarter of your life is just battling chronic illness until you kick the bucket. And he's like, there's actually a path to having health span and having longevity and like being able to play with my grandkids and all of the fun things you just mentioned, where it's like, I think there is maybe a little bit of a generational or a paradigm shift for some folks that still needs to be had, that like, hey, this doesn't have to be this way.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it starts, it's never too late to start. I want to preface with that. It's, you can be 70 and start, doing minor lifting or just, doing step ups, things like that, working on your functional movement. It's never too late. But I do think one of the biggest problems we're facing as a society is with the youth, like with children. Like child obesity is a very, very big problem. And that means that they're going to be battling their health and chronic disease for their entire life,
which is great for the pharmaceutical industry that wants to keep you on this chronic disease treadmill.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So is it parenting? Is it our food system? Is like, what's the solve as a mom?
Yeah.
Like how are you approaching that?
Yeah, it's both. I would say it's 90% parenting and 10% the food system, because as a parent, I ultimately have the autonomy of what to feed my son, right? Unfortunately, marketing is trying to get to children and the ease of snacks and, all these things to make it easier as a mom too. So it attracts me, it attracts, when my son will be that age. But I ultimately make the choice of what to feed him, and so yes, it might be extra work to feed him vegetables, to cut up the fruit, but I care about his health now and down the line when I'm not around, and we're setting that foundation right now.
Totally. Yeah, I saw in like Chile, they like basically treated like cereal like we've done with like cigarettes. So they've taken the cartoons off the boxes. They're not allowed to market it during kids programming, and the amount of like childhood obesity and chronic illness has like gone through the floor.
For sure.
Because they're not just putting Toucan Sam on the box
that.
of that. So very cool. Is there anything else that's kind of concerning you as you look at kind of the typical American state of our health? Make America great again is quite the thing now. Like what's your take on where we're at, and is it correctable?
It's correctable, yes. It's unfortunately in this broken world that we live in, I don't see it being corrected because one of the major problems with the healthcare system is doctors seeing too many patients and not getting to know their patients. And again, just using that formula, because I used to work in the emergency department, and I worked for a provider who would just sign up for a patient before anybody else could. So he was seeing 40, 50 patients each time he was, each shift, because he made the most money that way, and he was a great guy, awesome person, knew a lot of things, but saw the person for 30 seconds and then, wrote a bunch of labs, X, Y, Z. And I think that it's not unique to just him.
Sure.
I do think that the system is created in that way physicians should be paid for what they do. Absolutely. But I do think that is a huge problem. I have a friend who just graduated from PA school, and she started working at a clinic and she was seeing 5 patients a day. And by 4 months, she's up to 20 to 30 patients a day. And she is just overwhelmed. And she's at a loss. I don't know what to do because I want to care for these people. But she can't because she's being, forced to see so many.
I was having a conversation with a doctor that we know. And he's like, man, it's just tough too, though, because I have maybe 20 minutes at best with somebody. If I spend the time to talk about lifestyle and diet, they're like, but I came here it's very transactional almost on the patient side of things, where we've just been trained like, I've got this symptom, I will go to the doctor and I will get a pill and I will go to the pharmacy and fulfill that.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of on both sides. And then aligning the incentives, I think, how does that work in the naturopathic space? Because I have to imagine that a naturopathic doctor still gets paid by the check-in. So if it's like, if I've got, gut issues and you help me remedy those, then I don't come back.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
Yeah. We should be in a dying business. Our goal is, like we say, to heal our patients, they don't come back. And then we rely on them telling their other
we say that here
person,
too.
you know, like
working ourselves out of a job.
That's what we're doing. But the thing about naturopathic medicine is we don't get into it just because we want to be a doctor. Like allopathic medicine, just similar to me, my story, like I want to be a doctor, so that's what I was going to do. But everyone I've met in naturopathic medicine has a story that brought them there. And so they truly, they experienced healing. A family member, a friend, somebody they know experienced true healing from naturopathic medicine. And so that got them there. So your doctor is going to care about you and your healing. And okay, they're going to lose you as a patient, but then you're going to heal somebody else, So we are relying on that. But at the end of the day, we truly care about your healing or, walking alongside you in your chronic illness.
How often should somebody be seeing their doctor? I go once a year for an annual physical. More often? How often should I be tracking my blood work? What would you recommend? Let's coach it. Tell me, what are your recommendations for optimizing my wellness?
Yeah. I can't give a specific, you should go this many times. It's, again, different for each person. And it's cliche, but that's my answer. For a healthy person, do what is recommended, your yearly physical. But someone who is, I don't even want to say sick, but somebody who is trying to optimize, they have specific wellness goals. They can be seen more often, get blood work more often. At Sonora Quest, you can now order your own labs.
Cool.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. You can just go online and
so is there a place where you're just over optimizing? I had the Whoop band for a while and I've been looking at the constant glucose monitor just to get some learnings, but you just get to a point where you're now I'm dragging through the day because this little band I'm wearing told me I got a bad night of sleep when otherwise I probably would have been fine if I didn't know that. Yeah, I think they're great tools, but I don't think they're necessary.
I think that we aren't really taught how to listen to our body or how to be in tune with our body because of our busy lives. We just we wake up and immediately we're on the go. We don't have time to think about our bodies, how we're feeling. We just know we're good or we're bad. We don't know what is making me feel this way. How am I feeling this way? Okay, I did this. This is making me feel this way. We're just relying on these trackers or we're just going through our day. Yeah. And so I think that's a skill that a lot of people could benefit from instead of using all of these tools is just being in tune with your body, taking 90 seconds in the morning to just take a breath and see how you're feeling. 90 seconds at lunch. How's my morning been going? Just slow down for a hot second.
So good.
But I don't have any trackers. I have an analog watch here. I don't use any of that stuff.
Because you're afraid of EMFs or why? Do I need to get rid of this?
No.
Do I have wrist cancer now?
I mean, everyone has wrist cancer. But it goes back to my definition of wellness is, how am I functioning? Do I feel good? Do my joints feel good? Am I able to move? How's my energy? Am I able to perform the tasks I need to throughout the day? Those are the measurements to use. That is wellness. You don't need all these trackers and things like that.
I love that. We recently redid our program journal. I'll give you a copy if you'd like.
I would love that.
And it is a beast now.
Yeah.
And it basically just said, like, how do we capture all of this knowledge we have and put it in the hands of our members? And there's a part kind of in that reintroduction period when we're trying to identify trigger foods or maybe some inflammatory markers, like did psoriasis come back? Did you put on weight after you reintroduced this food, et cetera? But we kind of added just like a little section of like, your body's the best doctor. Like there's this concept that like, you don't wait for the health coach to tell you like, oh, that might be a trigger food. It's like, how did you feel? Like take some time. And I think myself included, like there's just this mismatch of like, I just run crazy through the day and then I sit down at a meal and I expect to like enjoy it and be slow. It doesn't happen. Like my 2-year-old, she'll be like, whoa, daddy, whoa, you're eating too fast. Because of course I'm telling her that she's eating too fast.
I love that.
But it's like, it's just, we are just moving too fast through this. And another naturopath that that'll be on the podcast soon, Dr. Dan Wool, he's like, man, 5,000 years ago, we'd be living at peace in nature, living off the land sustainably. Maybe there'd be some acute stress of running from an animal or a war with another tribe or what have you. But we're just at peace. And like, we're not at peace anymore. Every email, every, tweet, every Facebook thing is a threat. Yeah. And we just have this nervous system mismatch.
100%. Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, I want you to know that it is not free. Well, you're watching it for free or listening to it for free, but we have a gentleman's agreement here at the Fear No Food podcast. We put a lot of work into this podcast, and all we would ask in return is that you like and subscribe on whatever podcast player that you're listening on, or if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. There's no way that I'm going to be able to check to see if you did. That's why it's the gentleman's agreement. Really appreciate if you took the moment to click that link and subscribe.
Let's talk about stress, and then I want to talk about semaglutide.
Okay.
What role does stress play? I feel like the more I talk to Dr. Abood about this, the more I look, it feels like, man, I could eat junk and be at peace and be better off like metabolically and from a disease standpoint than eating fully clean but being completely stressed out all the time. What's your take?
Man, I almost agree with that, but I don't want to go that far.
Okay.
Eating junk is bad. Stress. I mean, stress has two big effects on our body that I can think of. Nervous system dysregulation, and obviously the big C word, cortisol, right? Cortisol is pro-inflammatory. It inhibits our immune system. It's, anabolic, but help, build body fat. It tears down muscle, all these not good things that we want. And then nervous system dysregulation. Our nervous system is how we perceive everything. It's how our body works, and it's how we go about our day, how we do our job, how we interact with people. It's everything. So if we're teaching it that an email is a bear chasing after us, it is not going to be able to recover well. It's just going to be in this heightened state all the time, disrupt sleep, and then that's a whole problem in itself. Yeah. So it is the foundation of most chronic illnesses is stress. If we just took a second to breathe a couple times a day, like
pray,
you said,
meditate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just kind of ground ourselves.
Well, that was actually, I was dealing with, this is probably 2018. Revitalize was taking off way faster than we ever expected. Just a lot of like really fun stress, frankly, but it was a lot of hours. It was probably not caring for myself and my mind as well. And just had like panic attack at work, never had a panic attack ever, and I'm just like, am I dying right now? And just had to really have a reset, and started seeing this naturopathic doctor, and like one of the first things on his prescription for me was like more prayer and meditation. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like,
I can do this.
Most folks probably expecting anti-anxiety or something, which
totally.
There's a place for that probably.
Absolutely.
But but all right, let's talk about making our own bread and sourdough.
Yeah, I mean, celiac is, a disease where you can't process the protein in wheat. And this is totally anecdotal, but I've just heard of people going to Europe and being able to eat bread because in Europe glyphosate is not allowed, and so
which is a
pesticide.
It's a
pesticide that is used to harvest wheat and oats and things like that. So it makes it a lot easier to actually get the wheat from the field and process it and things like that. But it is illegal in the EU. So I've heard of that. I have a friend who mills her own bread who has celiac. She can eat like flour, not gluten-free flour, not almond flour, not coconut flour. She can eat flour from milling her own bread.
Because you think it's the glyphosate, or because it's a sourdough and it's breaking down the gluten protein more?
It's different. She's not making it from sourdough. Like, she's just using regular flour, to make muffins, to make bread, all the things. Sourdough, as you know, like you said, it could be breaking down that protein. I just think when things are not highly processed in simpler form, our body can process it, and not like, wow, there's a million ingredients in here and I have to deal with all of these things. I'm just gonna, create a reaction because I don't know what's going on. When there's 5 ingredients, then our body can individually process each thing.
I was having this conversation with somebody that I'm close to, and he's like, what's the big deal about, like, it's just a couple pieces of bread and a piece of sausage, it's a McMuffin, and I'm like, that is not just those things. Yeah. Like, maybe when in the 60s when you were a kid it was those things, but now there's I just saw a video of a woman who has a 20-year-old hamburger from McDonald's, and it looks like almost the exact same.
Oh my gosh.
And you're like, what? There's just a ton of stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like, the bread didn't mold.
Yeah.
The patty looks the exact same. The French fries look like maybe they're a couple weeks old, like you find under your car seat or something.
Yeah.
But not 20 years old.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, they got to put things in there to keep them stable longer so that they can use them longer so they don't go bad and, lose revenue, lose product and things like that, And then our body is like, I've never seen this before. Going back to the dark ages you're talking about, like, our body wasn't made to deal with these things. It's sad.
What else should we be making ourselves?
Everything.
Okay.
I mean, our meat, like, don't get me on that. That is a huge problem. I mean, did you know? Yeah, anyway.
No, tell me.
Chicken doesn't have to be in a regulated facility. Like, anyone can just kill chickens, do whatever they want with them, and then put them in the grocery store. And I just think that's...
And you know what else is weird about chickens? 2 things I just recently was looking into. We only have, like, one type of chicken that we get in the grocery store because it's I forget the name of it, but it's specifically bred to put on a ton of weight in like 6 weeks. So from like hatching to like slaughter, it's like 6 weeks. But nobody's like optimizing for like the best tasting chicken. Like, there's no like Wagyu beef of chicken. I'm like, maybe there's an opportunity here. Like, we should just stop revitalizing.
Crossbreed and create
that, and then they depending on like what light they put the chickens under, the chickens will eat more. So like I was listening to this thing about like incandescent lights are actually better for us if you're really optimizing than like LED lights, because LED, I was listening to this thing and they were talking about like if you do slow motion picture of like your LED light, it flickers because it's like it's going on and off, and apparently that has some, I don't know, messes with your blood sugar and who knows what else, I'm sure, but like water's making us fat now. So, but it is crazy. It's like, their food, like the meat is just. Yeah.
Something I think that's interesting is in my journey of school, a lot of people came in being vegans of like, like naturopath vegans, right? I have more people who who were vegans, switched to eating meat after being in school than people, I don't know anybody who was eating meat and went to vegan afterwards.
Dr. Abood, same thing. Yeah, he was vegan for like 7 or 8 years. Yeah. And then as he was getting in this program, the genesis of it was him doing it as a vegan. And now he's a meat eater. Yeah.
I think it just, meat gets a bad rap, but I think it just depends on where you get the meat and what's in your meat. The beef at the store is not 100% ground up cow,
What should we be getting? Like, the local farmer find a...
find a local farmer. There's lots of delivery systems these days.
Any ones you like?
Small plug, my brother is a rancher, so he has his own cattle, chickens, so I get my beef.
Emily's brother, please reach out for sponsorship. Use code Dan for 10% off.
He last year moved up to Show, Arizona and bought 40 acres and started his own ranch. And so we bought a cow from him and he raised it, grass-fed, slaughtered it.
We want to do that. Danae and I have been talking about that. Yeah. So do you know Kaylee, who goes to Redemption? Anyways, she's a farmer and she works in like food access and stuff. Yeah. She's like got a couple of farmers that she's like, we could go in on a cow. So that
totally. Sweet. We did it like within our family, and like we have a chest freezer full of pork and beef, and he's doing chickens now, and that's what we get. You're supporting local people, right? But also a great like low carbon, footprint. It's great for the environment and things like that. Instead of having these, huge farms producing a lot of greenhouse gas of processing and things, he raises a few cows, goes to the local butcher, and then I pick it up when I'm up there and bring it home. And that's
Yeah.
like the best for, like I said, the
I feel like there's an
environment and your
opportunity,
health.
or maybe this exists, but there needs to be like a clearinghouse of like small farmers that like in your area that you could go to. Because it's like, how does the average person know? It's like, I feel like it's all like word of mouth. Like, oh, somebody knows somebody.
underground,
Yeah, it's like I know a farmer.
yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
Or it's like the same with like hunting. I feel like it's an heirloom to be passed on. It's like I'm just not going to go hunt elk because I don't know how to do that. But like my buddy invites me, so maybe like I'm going to go, and his dad's going to go with us, and like so how do you go harvest your own meat? Like it's just going to go to Shields and buy a gun and just like walk out in the wilderness and hope I find something.
Yeah.
So I feel like there needs to be like a here's how, like, because it feels almost so fringe until you're like, oh, I just calling Emily's brother, and now I have a half a cow in my house.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think I don't know if you guys are farmer market goers. I'm not, but my brother like goes to the farmers market up in Show Low, and so people find out about him through that. And also like local farmers who do like fruits and vegetables and stuff are at farmers market. So I think that's a great way to find out who's around you, because farmers market are super local. People aren't going to travel from different states.
Are those like I feel like there's been some stuff out there that's like, oh, like these produce, they're just buying like the cast offs from Safeway and just selling them at the farmers market. Like, how do you know? Like, is there
That's a good question.
Okay, we don't know.
I don't know.
You just gotta vet.
Yeah.
Okay. Be skeptical of everything. All right.
Yeah.
GLP-1 medications. What's your take on these? Because it feels like it's a hot button issue. We get asked a lot about it.
Yeah.
We have a take on it. I have my private take, and then I have my but we have a take on these medications. We're seeing a lot of folks come to us. I'd say like at this point 50-60% of people we sit with have tried them and have had terrible results or put the weight back on.
For sure.
What's your take on these?
Yeah. They have a place maybe 5% of the time. They are a medication that can help people lose weight. If losing weight is your barrier, I've tried everything, I can't get it down, it can be that kind of starter push to motivate people to kind of, oh, okay, this is coming off. You can start implementing small things while you're taking it. So you're not just like jumping in full, making all the life changes at one time. It can be that good thing. It can also help with type 2 diabetes. But it is not a permanent solution. I'm not a physician yet, so, but I don't, my take is they're not the saving grace that we, or people think that it is, because just like you said, people will take it, they'll lose the weight, and then they'll get off of it and gain all the weight back. Yeah. And that's harmful for our body to be going through these huge fluctuations. It's not teaching our endocrine system, our hormones, how to regulate food. It's doing it for us. And so when we take it off, our body's still going to have that underlying problem, which naturopathic doctors, again, another one of our principles, treat the underlying cause. It's not treating the underlying cause. It's just it's helping our body with something, but not healing the body and teaching it how to regulate insulin and glucose levels and things like that. And then on another aspect, we were talking about exercise. It can't replace exercise. So yes, you lost the weight, but your muscles are still weak. You can still fall. You can still, have all of these problems from not having a strong musculoskeletal system. Yeah.
And what about natural alternatives to raising your GLP-1 hormone? Thoughts on good, bad, like berberine or drinking yerba mate tea or some of these things?
Yeah, I think they're a good alternative, again, to help people kind of get started with the process. Herbs are a great alternative to medications. They usually have less side effects. Not always. Herbs, we get medications, pharmaceuticals from plant constituents a lot of the time. So you can still have side effects with herbs, absolutely. But a lot of time, if you're taking the constituent in the whole plant form, there's going to be other things in the plant to help minimize those side effects versus a isolated constituent from the plant.
Sure.
So have a place, they're good, but again, nothing can replace eating whole foods and exercise. Like all the supplements in the world. Again, they're great. I learned about supplements, they're awesome. They can help, but
they're a supplement to a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet.
Yeah, they still don't fix the problem. They still help, but they don't fix the underlying cause.
Yeah, and I think the question would be like, well, why do you want to raise your GLP-1 hormone? Well, I'm hungry all the time. Okay, well, is that because that's dysregulated, or like you've just trained your body, like you were saying, you've trained your body to be hungry at the wrong times or not hungry, or leptin and ghrelin are like off, and we see that all the time where it's like, wow, by day 20 somebody's like, oh, I'm not as hungry as I used to be, or I'm hungry at the appropriate times, and it's like, yeah, your body's removing inflammation, it's detoxifying, it's rebalancing, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and maybe you're listening to it,
right? And I think people don't understand that like eating, our digestive system is a hormonal system, you know? They just think, oh, I'm hungry. Again, listen to my body, so I'm going to eat. It's it can be trained to be hungry at certain times or not hungry at certain times. So if it's used to getting food all the time, it's going to express those genes to make those hormones all the time because it is used to receiving food all the time. So it needs to be able to digest that food all the time. So it's a hormonal system that can be regulated just like all the other hormonal systems in our body.
Yeah. That's great. Any other hot takes?
It's very vague.
It's very vague. But yeah, any other anything that you're seeing that you're like, hey, people should be aware of this, whether that's a supplement or like people are sleeping on, you know, this protocol, or and there's just a lot. I feel like when I think of myself, or I think of like my mom, she'll be sending me, she's like, hey, what do you think about colostrum? Or what do you think about red light PEMF beds? And like all of these, like, I don't say fringe modalities, because I think there's a use case for a lot of these things, but there's also some junk out there where I'm like, no, like, is there anything that you're seeing out there that maybe more people should be aware of or should be cautioned about?
Yeah. Well, okay. The first thing that came to mind is if someone says, you know, everyone should be taking this, don't believe that. Right, yes. Everyone is unique. Do research, talk to a doctor, XYZ. But also the biggest thing that I think was a shocker to me was learning about the supplement world, and it's supplements are great, but it is a unregulated system. And so a company can create themselves and put anything into a capsule and say that it is something else. So just a recommendation is when you're looking at supplements, don't just get the cheapest one at, you know, the grocery store or whatever. Yeah. Unfortunately, do your research, look for it to be third-party tested, things like that. What
are the typical, the USP, or is it CMGP?
I can't remember.
Those are ours. Those are our third-party tests.
Those are our third.
Look for those ones.
Vitalize is a third-party tested supplements. You can trust them. But yeah, you want to make sure what you're getting is what you think you're getting, as well as there isn't contaminants or other things added in there, because there might be some vitamin C in there, but they might add some other things to fill up the capsule. And so again, there's just a lot of deception. So just be aware with supplements, because it can do more harm than good.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you should be skeptical, I think, in a lot of this just industry in general. Like even in our book, we have like, here's the questions you should ask. Like even, you know, our program isn't right for everybody. There was a gal here that was just here the other day, and we were like, don't think this is a good fit. Like here's a name of a couple food psychologists you should probably talk to. And like you should have, you know, your hit list of questions or things to be looking out for and to be educated, because unfortunately it's like feels like we're overregulated in some ways and unregulated in other ways.
For sure. Yeah. No, it is overwhelming, but this will be the last time I say it. Nothing can beat just eating whole foods and exercise. No red light therapy, no sauna. All those things are good, right? Yeah. They're good. But if you're doing that, but still not sleeping, not getting, you know, the water, the food, the exercise, like you're not doing anything.
Yeah, you're fighting an uphill battle at that point. All right, well, this is called the Fear No Food podcast, so I would love to know, what is one food that's like a healthy food you consider a healthy food that people are afraid of, that you love, and then also what's like, hey, nobody's looking, what's your indulgence food go to?
My top food are eggs. Okay, they're a complete protein. Don't be afraid of cholesterol, people. It is.
They recently made their way on the FDA's like healthy list. Finally.
Yes.
2025. No. We finally see eggs as the healthy food.
Yeah. My mom is still like, I can't eat eggs. I'm like, yes, you can. Everyone should be eating eggs.
Tell me more about that though, real quick. Why have they been, because of the amount of cholesterol in them?
It's the cholesterol thing.
And we're finding that dietary cholesterol actually doesn't increase.
Correct. Yeah. I've got to be careful
Right.
with what I say.
Right.
But it is found, there's research that exogenous taking in cholesterol from food does not raise your cholesterol levels. We make cholesterol in our bodies. We have our own process of making it. So elevated cholesterol levels is from a dysregulation in that process of making cholesterol. So eggs are not going to raise your cholesterol in what I've read. So don't be afraid of eggs. Amazing food, complete protein, so good for you. Protein, fats, all the things keep you full.
Yeah.
Decently low calorie. Anyways, and then my indulgent food, ice cream. Oh my gosh,
okay.
yeah.
Any brand?
Any brand, any type of ice cream is it for me.
Yeah, it's got the perfect amount of fat
Yeah.
and sugar. Like it's just the perfect blend.
Oh man, it's amazing. Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
And thank you for all of the time and energy you've spent serving our members here. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Yeah.